2016 has been an amazing year for gaming. I am blown away by how many great games have come out this year, and I haven't even played all the ones I wanted to play. There's like 6 or 7 additional games that I'd really like to go through. I ended up taking every game that I had played, that I liked, that came out this year, and matching them up one against another. It took quite a while because every game ended up fighting every other game one-on-one in order to determine where my top 5 were. And it ended up, we actually came up with the top 6. Because several of them ended up tying, so that's what we're going to do. But before we do that, I wanted to cover a couple of special mentions. While I have obviously not played this game, I do have to give props for the fact that The Last Guardian actually came out. I really was genuinely surprised when I heard the news that the game had finally been released and we could actually play it finally. I haven't picked it up yet, but it is a game that I'm told is either fantastic or terrible, depending on who you listen to, so I'm sure there's at least something worth talking about there. While some people have been decrying that World of Warcraft has been a dying game for about 10 years now, I have to admit that I was really pleasantly surprised by Legion. After Warlords and its somewhat lackluster showing, it was nice to see that they had really hit their stride with this one. Lots of great story stuff, lots of great combat stuff, lots of new gameplay features, tons and tons of fun. I have really been enjoying Legion. I'm looking forward to what they do next with it. I know this one's kind of a weird one since this is a remake, but by all accounts it is a proper remake. Dragon Quest VII, of course, I don't even remember what the actual subtitle is off the top of my head, was a really fun game for me back in the day, and it was something I had really been wanting to come out in a proper remake ever since they started doing the proper remakes. The fact that we had to wait for years for an English localization for this game was just criminal, but the fact that we finally got it was still enjoyable and something I really loved. Well, kind of a weird one to talk about. It was interesting to see Pokemon Go just kind of sweep the nation. It certainly died down significantly, of course, as all fads do, but I still see people playing it every now and again, especially out when I'm out, going to the grocery store or hitting up the movies. And it's nice to see that they're still updating the game and trying to do something with it. So, of course, some of you are aware of the fact that we decided to do our very first ever Lore Walkers Game of the Year. Now, not a lot of people suggested any categories, so we've decided to kind of skip that thing, but I did tally up all the votes. In fact, I've even thrown up together a little bit of a pie chart, which I'll be tossing up here in the corner in just a moment. But before I do anything further, I'd like to go ahead and just drumroll. The Lore Walkers Game of the Year 2016 is Overwatch, which really surprised me. I didn't expect it to skyrocket to the top of the list so easily and so quickly. If you can go ahead and see here, I'll go ahead and show you the full spread. It's a little crude looking because I was having a difficulty actually getting it into a pie chart format, but you can see right there the games and the order they're in. Overwatch, Doom 4, Dark Souls 3, Deus Ex Machina, and Pokemon Sun and Moon, basically taking the top 5 slot, and you can kind of see the rest here. I really was surprised by this, but you know what? It's been a great game for years, and great year for games. And I think one of the things I really love about this is Overwatch is kind of dominant, and then Doom 4 is kind of dominant, and then Dark Souls 3 is pseudo-dominant. And then if you look from Pokemon Sun and Moon all the way over to, like, say, gosh, it looks like Titanfall 2, the difference between the two is just a small spread. There was a huge variance in between there of who liked what better, and I really find it fascinating, the amount of variance in there. You guys have really made me interested in this. And of course, a lot of people point out there were games that weren't even on this list because they were games that weren't suggested in time for us to start the vote. So, wow, guys, you really blew me away with this one. But I know what you guys are waiting for. You're waiting to hear my top 6 games of the year. It was going to be top 5, I swear, but you see how it is. Number 4 through 6 are all tied, so why don't we go ahead and start from the bottom at our third tied for fourth, whatever. We'll just call it 4-3. Let's just start with my 4-3 game of the year 2016. Honestly, most of my fans are probably going to look at this one and say, well, this is your number 1, right? Well, not quite. As I think I made clear during the full premiere run, I had a few issues with the combat and some functions of the gameplay, which I just didn't really quite get into. For the same reason I don't get into other games' gameplay that function like this. But it soared to the top of the list because of the amazing writing, the incredible setting building, the fantastic choose-your-own-adventure style thing. We've actually talked many times about the idea of, branching story, the all roads lead to Rome concept in game design philosophy. This really lets you completely vary how you proceed through levels and maps, completely change your overall path of gameplay progression and the way the story goes. And I loved it. This game has some of the most intense replayability I've seen in a game ever. And the severity, the sheer amount of choice and nuance you get in deciding exactly how your character is and how the other characters react to you is through the roof. It may not completely change the story in that aspect of it, but individual lines of dialogue clearly show the tone and nuance and allow you to roleplay basically however you want to, from a person who's trying to do the best they can in a bad situation to a deranged monster, and literally everything in between. It was a really, really good game that, if I had time, I would already have replayed through at least once, possibly 3 more times, because seriously, oh my god. I also have to say, this game might actually surpass KOTOR 2 as my favorite Obsidian game of all time. I think this does surpass Neverwinter Nights 2, definitely. Really good stuff here. If I'm being honest with myself, I'm actually really surprised at how far up on the list this one landed. I mean, granted, I've been a Pokemon fan since Generation 2, and I've played the Pokemon game since Generation 1, but this one really just blew so many of them out of the water. There's so many little changes that make this game so much more fun to play. A lot of the little aggravations and little irritants that I usually tolerate in order to enjoy a Pokemon game, gone, thrown out the window. On top of that, you have a fun, lighthearted story, mostly with a generational theme of passing on the torch to the next generation of people or the next era of people. And one of the best, no, I'm going to take that back, the best team that has ever been in any Pokemon game. Team Skull is awesome, and I love them. And on top of that, I liked going and catching them all. At no point did I get bored doing the catch-em-all thing, as some of my viewers can attest to, since we did that for like 3 or 4 days in a row before we finally started moving forward with the main plot. Overall, absolutely loved this game. Great entry to the Pokemon series. It's going to be kind of hard going back now to Black and White 2 after this one, I think. I've got to be completely honest, this one really surprised me. It's amazing to me how enjoyable this game was for how incredibly flawed it was. There were so many little things that kept happening that kept irritating me, and all of it was indicative of a game that was ultimately rushed, most notably the plot, which, while interesting, did have several, I don't want to call them holes because then people think I mean plot holes, but it had several moments where clearly it was lacked or it was squished. And there were some issues regarding the setting and development of the setting, and I felt like they really could have done more on both fronts, but it is nevertheless astonishing how good this game is, considering how rushed it was. They were under the gun for almost the entire thing, and I still had a ball playing this game. I loved playing through this game. The dynamic between the 4 main characters just made me absolutely fall in love with them. I wanted to see more of the 4 main characters, just constantly, their interaction with each other. The combat was enjoyable once I got into the flow of it. There's fun dungeons, there's fun side quests. This is one of the very few games I've played where the side quests didn't actually bore me, but made it so that I really wanted to keep doing them. And that's not a take at anybody, I know some of you know what I mean by that. But I mean that as a genuine positive. This was such a fun game. And then you go around and you get new weapons, and then you get new abilities, and then you upgrade the Ascension Sphere and all of it. It was such a return to form. And that ultimately is this thing I'm going to say that everyone else has said. Yes, this is absolutely a Final Fantasy game. Flaws and all. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. The Final Fantasies have always been flawed games. Maybe flawed masterpieces. Maybe that's a better word. This one's probably not going to surprise most of my viewers any more than the Tyranny one did, although this one did get a little higher than I thought it would. This year has been a great year for 4X or just strategy games in general. We have had Homeworld Deserts of Karak, which is a fantastic RTS, Master of Orion 4, Endless Space 2, Civilization 6, and Stellaris. But of all these games, Stellaris just clawed its way to the top. It's not actually quite a 4X game, as I've discussed many times on the stream. It's kind of a hybrid 4X grand strategy, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons it really clawed its way so far up to the top. But really, there's 2 other really big things that made Stellaris shine for me. Number one, its UI is probably the best UI I've ever seen. ever in terms of a 4X strategy game. I'm serious. Everything is immediately accessible. You can tell exactly what you need, exactly where you need it, and you make your commands and make your decisions quickly and without incident. On top of that, the second thing is the mod support. I've already been modding the hell out of this game, and even though an expansion recently just came out, I've already gotten new mods for that expansion. Oh, and while we're on the subject, the scope of this game is huge. You can have a gargantuan galaxy, and you can mod it to have an even larger galaxy, or multiple galaxies. The amount of depth in this game is fantastic. Really, I only have one complaint about it. The fact that I can't frickin' rebind my keys. I can't believe I can't do that. The fact that, oh, as an aside, I gotta say, they're still patching this game. They're still adding to this game, and that's just another reason why Stellaris is so high up on the list for me. Seriously, if you love 4X games or grand strategy, try this one out. In hindsight, this one isn't actually all that surprising. I've been a fan of Thief-style games since Thief, really, actually. And there have been several that have come out this year that I've really enjoyed. Dishonored itself was a game that I really liked playing through. But this game really crawled its way to the top of the list because it really lets you play basically however you want. I actually did a full no-scene, no-kill playthrough, and then a kill absolutely everything in my way playthrough on stream, just to highlight the differences between the two. And you can do whatever in between as well. Lots of different options as far as tools, or gadgets, or powers, or using the terrain. Amazing level design. Some of the best level design I've seen in a game ever, really. Overall, the only flaws I had with this game were the fact that its main plot was basically in many ways just an aping of the main plot of the first game. They did do some very good characterization, though. The characters got fleshed out pretty well, and especially Emily herself, and I really enjoyed the setting and the fleshing out of the world of Dishonored. Overall, I would make this game... Wait, I'm not doing a review, am I? A 5 out of 10! I really like this game. I can't praise it enough. Go buy this game. Just go. There's only really one game this year that actually surpassed it for me, and I gotta be honest, I was astonished when I realized which one it was. Alright, I'll be honest here. I don't think anybody is as surprised by this as I am, because I was blown away by this game. The level of quality in this game, the level of options... It would be difficult for me to describe all the things that this game did right, rather than just saying almost everything. It would actually be easier for me to describe the things that this game did wrong. The lip syncing, as you can see there, is one of the issues with the game. And, well, there's a couple of balancing issues with regards to the energy usage for certain powers. And really, that's kind of it. Otherwise, this was a phenomenal game. Brilliantly written, brilliantly voice acted, incredible level design, right up there with Dishonored 2. I mean, again, it's the Thief thing all over again. You know, if you want to go through guns blazing, you can do that. If you want to sneak your way through, if you want to talk your way through, if you want to hack your way through, if you want to do some combination of all of the above, it's not just like you pick a path and you go. The game is incredibly dynamic and allows you to adapt. Like, if you start sneaking through and you screw up, you can recover from that. You can say, oh, well, no, I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to do this over here. And the way that you have options with regards to customizing the loadout of your augments or the equipment you've got and changing out mods on your guns and just... I can't even go into it all. There's so much this game does right. And on top of it, while the main quest is a little on the weak side... And the main theme is kind of hammered into your face very hard with the whole anti-augments theme. The side quests are pure platinum. They are fantastic. I loved every single one of the side quests. And a lot of them led to either, depending on how you do it, they could lead to either amazing boss fights with incredible stealth or action-y awesomeness, or just trying to talk your way through a situation or prepping yourself so you can talk someone down and using the little mini-game feature with the discussion augment. It's just, oh my god, I cannot gush enough about this game. This game is pure poetry. But I want to address something that I know some of you are going to bring up. For me, and a lot of viewers, a lot of reviewers have looked at this game and said, well, because of what Square Enix did with the DLC stuff, this game does not qualify as Game of the Year because it's garbage what they did. And I agree that it's garbage what Square Enix did to the game. But that in no way, for me personally, makes this game any less. I want to replay this game. It's got a New Game Plus feature, for God's sakes, which you're actually seeing right now on screen. I really want to replay this game, and I want to try it like 3 or 4 different ways, and I really want the series to continue. This was so good. So good. Absolutely, without question, my Game of the Year 2016. Now, I know a lot of you are going to disagree with that, and that's awesome. I've already heard a lot of different discussions about what people like and what people didn't like, and I'd love to hear, if you haven't already given your vote or what your personal game of the year was, please feel free to put it in the comments below. Otherwise, I think we could all just be grateful for the fact that 2016 was a great year for gaming. And here's hoping 2017 will be good as well. See you around, guys.